I always advocate start your training from the ground up. Okay, your first sessions in jiu-jitsu, you're going to find, to your horror, that everyone gets on top of you and you can't get out. And it's a dispiriting, crushing kind of feeling that you just have no skills and you have no prospects in the sport. So your first skill is the skill of being able to free yourself from positional pins. Most of the escapes in jiu-jitsu go to guard position. And so once you get someone in your guard, they're going to be looking to pass your guard and get back into those positional pins that you just escaped from. And that's just as crushing as getting pinned. You feel like every time you try to hold someone in guard, they just effortlessly pass you by. So your first two skills, you got to be able to get out of any pin, and you got to be able to hold someone in your guard. So pin escapes and guard retention are your first two skills. I generally advocate the idea of learning to fight from your back first, and then learning to fight from on top second. Why? Because the brute fact is, when you first start off, you just don't have enough skills to hold top position or gain top position through a takedown. So inevitably, you're going to end up underneath people for most of your training time. Your training should reflect that in the early days as a white belt. Start with the first two skills you need. They're not the most exciting. They're not sexy skills that are going to make you look like a stud in the training room, but they're going to keep you alive long enough to learn those sexy skills in the future that will make you look like a stud. Start with pin escapes, go to guard retention, and focus heavily on those two. When you start to get into offense, start with bottom position. So there's a clear continuity between your pin escapes, your guard retention, and then your guard itself. Okay? You've got different options with guard. Some of you are going to like closed guard. Some of you are going to like variations of open guard. Some of you are going to like to be seated. Some of you are going to like to be supine. Some of you are going to like half guard. As a general rule, this is a heavy generalization, but I'm going to give it to you. In my experience, most people benefit the most by starting with half guard first. I know that traditionally jiu-jitsu has been taught closed guard first, and then all the other guards come after that. I'm a big believer in the idea of start with pin escapes, then go to guard retention, and then start with half guard bottom. That way you get a nice continuity between your first three skills, and you make good progress over those first critical 6 months in jiu-jitsu.
What does it take to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu?
Very little. Just show up, pay your fees. Don't set your goals low, okay? Don't even ask yourself that question. No one cares if you got a black belt, okay? The only thing that counts is the skills you have. I know plenty of black belts that suck, okay? There's a lot of them out there. Don't lower your standards by saying, I want to get a black belt. Ask yourself something much more important. How good do I want to be? You want to be damn good, right? You want to do something, invest time, and you want to be the best you can. Wearing a belt around your waist doesn't guarantee that. Build skills, focus on that. You have to see training for what it is. Training is about skill development, not about winning or losing. You've got to understand that you don't need to win every battle. You only need to win the battles that count. And the battles that count are in the World Championship finals, okay? That's the one that counts. Think about that win, okay? That's the one you're going to be remembered for. You're not going to be remembered for the battle you lost on Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. in some nameless gym with some guy that no one cares about. No one's going to remember that. You're going to be remembered for your peak performances, not your everyday performances. Focus your everyday performances on skill development so that your peak performances, you can focus on winning.
You know, this is not a therapy session, but if I could just speak.
Every session is a therapy session.
There is still an ape thing in there.
Of course. You think I don't feel it? You think everyone in the room doesn't feel it?
Because, for example, you haven't never seen me roll. When there's people, I've seen the look in people's eyes when they see me train, and I could see maybe it's me projecting, but they think, I thought you were supposed to be good. I thought you were supposed to be a black belt. Like that look, they're like studying.
I'm going to give you some therapy.
Okay.
Do you know how many people have come up to me over the years who have visited the training halls that I work in, and they come up to me and they go, man, I rolled with Gary Tonin. I did really well with him. Like really well.
Really well.
I'm like, oh, that's very, very good. Very impressive. And then I see them talking to their friends. I'm like, man, I tapped out Gary Tonin.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, yeah. And you can see that they're just like, whoa, dude, I'm way better than I thought I was. Gary Tonin, all of my students, I push them in the direction of giving up bad positions so that they practice getting out of critical situations. It's a huge part of our training program. But Gary Tonin takes that to a level that just no one else even gets close. It's just amazing. Like, he will put himself in impossible situations where it's a fully locked strangle, 100% on, with both his arms behind his back. And he'll try to work out from there.
Yeah.
And 7 times out of 10, he does. But 3 times out of 10, he gets caught. I'm a huge advocate of handicap training, where you handicap yourself to work on skills. He's took that to heart to a level that few people, I believe, can match.
I just wonder what his psychology is like, because
it goes back to what we talked about before, Lex. You have to understand it's skill development. Don't take it personally. I understand. I hear where you're coming from. We've all got what you call the ape reflex, where we want to be dominant. Okay, yeah. We all do.
Because there's thousands of white belts out there that have tapped Gary Tonin. Yes. And they're walking around and they're posting
saying,
online.
Dude, I tapped Gary Tonin. Like, Gary Tonin's like one of the best in the world, so I'm one of the best in the world. And does Gary get upset about this? No, of course not. Because Gary knows that when it counts on stage, he's going to be going 100% with a set of skills that very few people can match. He can go into an EBI overtime at the 205-pound weight division against an 80cc champion, starting in a full arm lock position and effortlessly get out with no problems in seconds, because he's been in that situation 25,000 times with varying degrees of skilled opponents. And there's just no panic, no fear. He's just doing what he's done so many thousands of times. And that's a fine example of a guy who didn't give a damn what happened in the training room. But when it counted on the stage in front of the cameras, it kicked in. The single most important is persistence. People will point to all kinds of virtues amongst athletes. This guy's the most courageous. This guy's the strongest. These are all virtues. But the one indispensable virtue is persistence. The ability just to stay in the game long enough to get the results you seek.
But what does persistence really look like? If we can just break that apart a little bit.
It's actually, this is a great question you're asking, because most people see it as a kind of simplistic doggedness where you just show up every day. That's not it. The most important form of persistence is persistence of thinking, which looks to push you in increasingly efficient, more and more efficient methods of training. Famously, people talk about the idea that the hardest work of all is hard thinking, and they're absolutely right. Okay, coming into the gym and just doing the same thing for a decade isn't going to make you better. What's going to make you better is progressive training over time, where you identify clear goals marked out in time increments, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, and build those short-term goals into a program of long-term goals, making sure that the training program changes over time so that as your skill level rises, the challenges you face in the gym become higher and higher. Don't kill them at the start with challenges that are too hard for them to deal with. They get discouraged and leave. Build them slowly over time, but make sure they don't just get left in a swamp where they're just doing the same thing they were doing 3 years ago and they get bored. And there's 2 ways you can leave in a gym. You can leave from adversity, it was too tough, or you can leave from boredom. Everyone talks about the first. No one talks about the second. Most people, when they get to black belt, they get bored. They know what their game is. They know what they're good at. They know what they're not good at. When they compete, they stick with what they're good at, and they avoid what they're not good at.
Yeah.
And they get bored. They reach a plateau, and that's it. My whole thing is to make sure it's not so tough at the start that they leave because of adversity, and then for the rest of their career to make sure it's not boring so they leave because of boredom.
Travis Stevens actually said something that changed the way I see training. He said it as a side comment, but he said that at the end of a good training session, your mind should be exhausted, not your body. And I've, for most of my life, saw good training sessions where my body was exhausted.
Yes, I believe that's the case with most people. Yeah, you should come out of the training session with your mind buzzing with ideas, like possibilities for tomorrow. And by the way, on that note, I would go further and say that the training session doesn't finish when your body stops moving. It finishes when your mind stops moving, and your mind shouldn't stop moving. After that session, there should be analysis. What did I do well? What did I do badly? How could I do better with the things that I did well? Sumigeshi is among the most important positional moves in the sport of jiu-jitsu. It is a sweeping and throwing method that uses your legs to lift and turn an opponent onto his back so that you can get up on top of him. It works at all levels of the sport and in all weight categories. It is equally effective in both gi and no-gi jiu-jitsu. It has been used as the centerpiece of bottom guard attacks by many great athletes for generations. I believe that investing serious time in the study and practice of sumigeshi is one of the best things that you can do to improve your overall jiu-jitsu game. Sumigeshi is typically employed from seated guard, usually when an opponent is on one or two knees. But, as we shall see in this video, it is also very effective even against standing opponents as well.